Chapter 1. I think it was Mark Twain who said, "The two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." What about the day you find out you shouldn't have even been born? I think that day matters. Or finding out she's my mother, that matters. Peter Arnold drove. 1 hour ago, he walked onto a car lot, wrote a personal check, and sped away in a black Ferrari F12 Berlinetta. It wasn't planned. He just needed a new identity, a new way to think. Playing the piano used to be how he sorted out his problems, but now, knowing what he knew, he just couldn't. I can't play my piano, her piano. My whole life I've done everything for her, and she tried to kill me. Peter pressed the gas pedal down generously, feeling a smooth acceleration as he watched the speedometer climb into 3-digit speeds. He checked the rearview mirror as he switched lanes to pass a slow-moving semi-truck with 2 trailers. Pressing down on the accelerator even more, he cut in front of it. The knot in his stomach swelled. Road signs flew by him so fast he became dizzy as he tried to read them. He dug the accelerator down even more, but then the engine felt like it missed. He pulled forward and sped up only to rapidly slow down. He pushed the gas pedal lower, but the car kept slowing. Peter looked down at his dashboard and saw his check fuel light was on. The gas gauge needle was buried in the negative, and his car was slowing to a stop. He skillfully maneuvered the car to the side of the road, away from traffic, before it stalled completely. Jerks! I spent all that money, and they didn't even give me a full tank of gas. Peter rubbed his forehead in frustration. He could call a tow truck, but he needed more than a tow. He needed to get his head right. He dialed Gwen, requesting a video chat. "Hi, Pete." Her delicate face flashed on his phone. "What's up?" "I need a ride." "Where are you at?" "On the interstate, somewhere west of Mar Gap, maybe like 20 minutes out from you." "By yourself?" "It's sort of a long story." Gwen's blue eyes clouded with worry as she studied Peter's face. "I can come get you, but it'll probably take me a little bit. Is that okay?" "Yeah, I can't go anywhere. I'll be the guy in the black Ferrari on the side of the road." "You got a new car?" "I'll explain later." Gwen ended the call and her face disappeared. Peter waited. 45 minutes later, Peter sat in Gwen's more than gently used 82 copper brown Chevy Celebrity. The rust-colored interior fabric covering the ceiling of the car no longer stayed attached properly to the metal. It sagged in the middle, hanging down like a canopy, touching the tops of their heads. Gwen giggled when Peter tucked the extra fabric into the corner, only to have it fall back down, grazing the top of his head. They listened to the only station that came in on the AM radio, an oldie station currently running an Elvis Presley countdown. "Who do you think is more likely to have staged his death, Elvis or John Lennon?" "Are you into conspiracy theories now?" "No, but I was watching this documentary on how Elvis faked his death to protect his family. It makes so much sense. There are sightings of him everywhere." With a lopsided grin, Peter joked, "Yeah, and tomorrow I'm going to call you to pick me up when my UFO crashes." "You're so funny." Gwen rolled her eyes and breathed into the mugginess of the air. With the air conditioner having long been broke and her window stuck and unable to open, Gwen sat sweating. A dampness set in on her hair that made her blonde curls stick to the tops of her ears. The creases by her nose glistened in the light of the setting sun. Pulling over to enter an exit, she said, "Here's a truck stop. Let's get gas." She checked on him with a sideways glance and added, "I don't know if you're in a hurry to get back, but I can't breathe in here. Can we grab some food and wait for it to cool down?" "Whatever," Peter muttered, and settled into another silence as he waited for her to pull into a parking spot. Then he got out, grabbed a red 5-gallon gas can from beside the station, filled it, and placed it in Gwen's trunk. The trunk door floated back up when Peter shut it. Trying to slam it again, it took him a few times before it stuck. Laughing for the first time all day, he said, "This car's a real piece of junk, Gwen. If your cancer doesn't kill you first, this death trap will." "Hey, chemo and stuff's expensive. This is all I can afford." "Not everyone can afford a Lamborghini." "Ferrari. They didn't have any Lambos, but that would have been cool too." Then he gave her a sideways glance as they walked shoulder to shoulder toward the truck stops cafe. Hey, do you want it? Yeah, sure. Funny. No, I'm serious. I probably won't need it long. Sounding of hopelessness, his voice trailed off into nothing more than a whisper at the end. Sharply halting her steps, Gwen carefully reached out, touching his arm softly. What happened? Peter's eyes fled the other way. It's all a joke. You'd never believe me. She lifted her shoulders, hinting that she felt lost in this conversation. Try me. I don't even have the words. Gwen rolled her lips inward, giving up for the moment. Then let's go eat. After a moment of stillness, they trudged to the cafe, sitting on the same side of a booth as they always did since they were kids. Gwen ate French fries one at a time, slipping just the tip of the fry between her teeth, biting it off and repeating. Peter loved the way she ate fries. He tried to eat them like she did, but got impatient as he tossed the whole thing into his mouth at once. Neither one felt like talking much. They watched videos on their separate phones as they sat until they were ready to get back into the car. When Gwen did finally drive back to Peter's car, she pulled up behind it and maintained a straightforward stare. So, I get it. Believe me, I know what it's like, but I'm sort of not okay with leaving you alone right now. Peter's gut constricted again, but he knew she understood him better than anyone. That's exactly why I called you. Turning toward her, trapping those brilliant blue eyes of hers, he beckoned, Come with me. Follow me home and we'll hang out. Okay, Gwen agreed softly, while continuing to hold her eyes in communion with his. It was a silent moment the friends had shared all too often in their many years of companionship, and when it was over, Peter jumped out of her car and hurried into his, leading her back to Mara Gap. Resting his head on his seat's headrest, Peter let his eyes drift close and asked, Have you ever met someone so selfish, self-absorbed, self-centered, and all about themselves? Gwen sat cross-legged in Peter's passenger seat, ready to listen. You sure know a lot of adjectives to describe the same thing. No, I mean it. Like someone who only does things to help themselves, expects some huge career, has no friends, and just hangs out by themselves all the time, wallowing in self-pity. Are you describing yourself? Gwen's nose scrunched as it always did when she was confused. What? How could you ask that? What do you mean? You said someone with no friends who just wants a career and self-pities. I get you're having a bad day, but this is your pattern. It sounds exactly like you. I have friends. Me and Exa, who is twice your age. Gwen raised a challenging eyebrow. Well, yeah, I guess I never wanted any friends. I just liked piano. Man, you're right. He balled his hand into a fist and tapped it with force on the steering wheel. I'm just like her. Are you talking about Exa? Are you still mad she left? Oh no, I'm over that. I saw her again. What did she do now? Peter glared out the driver's side window. It's not what she did, it's what she wouldn't do. Gwen leaned forward, frustrated by his lack of details. What won't she do? Peter's gut nodded in disgust as he readied to spit his words out. She won't save my life. Then he hung his head low, feeling abandoned, knowing he had to accept the situation as his new reality. But it stung like white and blue fire.